Pozdrav tribinaši, pozdrav NFL ekipo. Stigli smo Sunset Sport Media Festival gdje nas očekuju razne poslastice. Hrvoje, što naši gledatelji mogu očekivati?
Pa, nadamo se uhvatiti Pita Radovića, CBS Sports Vice President, Creative Director. Nadamo se nekakav razgovor s njim obaviti vezano za NFL, vezano općenito za njegovu karijeru i možda malo i Croatia tema bude tu. Ali ne previše. A onda kasnije Bill Belichick koji je panelist Sunset Sports Media Festival, upravo sa gospodinom Radovićem će odraditi panel Lord of the Rings. Mi ćemo biti tamo, nadamo se prije i možda i poslije uloviti Bila za pokoju izjavu i pitat ga kako on does his job. Budite s nama, budite uz tribinu, vidit ćemo što možemo pripremiti, uspjet ćemo, nadam se, uloviti neke zanimljive izjave, dati neke svoje komentare, tako da ajmo vidjeti.
Da, i ako ste pratili naš Twitter profil, s nama je još jedan mladi gospodin koji će doći po svoju nagradu. Molim te, dođi pozdravi gledatelji. Tako da...
Najmlađi, najzgodniji u cijeloj ekipi.
Vidimo se. Pozdrav svima, pozdrav tribina, dobrodošli na Sunset Sport Media Festival. Ovdje imam veliko zadovoljstvo, kolega Bulić i ja, ugostiti Pita Radovića koji je organizirao ovaj festival već godinama. Evo, gospodine Pit, da vas pitam prvo, što vas je potaknulo na organizaciju ovog festivala i kako se osjećate već po ko zna koji put dolazeći ovdje?
Ovo je sad treći puta da imamo Sunseta, znači da smo krenuli prije 2 godine, malo prije 2 godine i prvo godinu smo imali možda 50 ljudi su stigli, to su onako na brzinu organizirali i rekli smo idemo ili i prošli smo i druga godina smo imali, ne znam, možda 200-300, možda niti 200 mogu reći, a danas očekivamo preko 500-600, tako da stvarno raste, a za početak ovo je krenio u Rovinju u stvari. Ja sam bio gost već dugo vremena sam gost u Rovinju na Sunset, nego na Weekend Media Festival gore u Rovinju u 9. mjesecu i nekoliko godina bio tamo kod njih, kod Bore i kod Tomislava koji organiziraju taj event. I ja sam kao spomenuo, vidim ja na konferenciji po svijetu, nema u sportskom svijetu, ovo ne postoji, ovaj tip festival gdje se ima po danu, ima konferencije, noćno bude party i to sve. I onda njima palo na pamet, ajmo mi napraviti nešto. Pa onda to je to, zajedno. I prvi dan sam rekao, ako to radimo, onda mora biti u Zadru. To mi je jedina želja da bude u Zadru i eto, zato smo sad u Zadru.
Fenomenalno. Da, znam da ste za naše pratitelje, jer oni baš prate NFL, dovodili ste Juliana Edelmana, dovodili ste Raya Lewisa te prve godine i onda nakon toga, 2 godine kasnije, Bill Belichick. Je li tajna kako ste, na koji način ste nagovorili Billa da se na to odluči?
Pa ne, o tomu ćemo sad razgovarati kad budemo unutra u dvorani. Mislim, nije neka tajna, nego ja njega već dugo znam. Ja sam bio režiser na film od Lawrence Taylora i koji je najbolji, ajmo reći, najbolji igrač u povijesti NFL u obrani. I Bill je bio njegov trener dok je bio u Giantsu, pa sam bio na intervju sa Billom, pa ima sigurno 10 godina. I on je zna da sam ja Hrvat pod rijekom, zna sam ja da i on, pa smo malo krenuli u priču i nije nikad bio do onda. Pa me je pitao kako bi mogao doći do Broda, kako bi mogao organizirati, volio bi ići vidjeti Hrvatsku. Pa sam mu pomogao s tim i ostali smo u kontaktu. I nedavno sam ja napokon napravio svoje državljanstvo preko konzulata u New Yorku, pa kad sam to napravio, njemu sam poslao poruku kao hey coach, I just got my Croatian citizenship. If you're interested, I can help you. I ja mislim bubnem bez veze i evo nakon 2 minute, Pete, let's talk.
That sounds, from our perspective, that sounds just like Bill.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you agree, Hrvoje?
Yeah. Absolutely. Pete, there's so many awards that you have won in your career as a producer at CBS. Is there any accomplishment that for you stands out, or maybe a certain program that you produced that stands out among all the others?
I guess this is easier in English, so I'll say it in English. So I've won a few, yeah, and a few stand out. There's a couple times where I've done something for the very first time. And for example, the very first documentary I ever did, I never worked on a documentary, not even as a production assistant. Never did one, never worked on one. And then I got the green light to do a full documentary, 2-hour documentary on the Army-Navy college football game in America. And it ended up winning Best Documentary, ended up winning 3 Emmys. So for me, that was pretty cool. Like, first time I ever did that, and it won. And then that's happened 3 times. So another time that happened was I was asked to produce a studio show inside the NFL. And again, I'd never produced a studio show, never really worked on a studio show. I always worked on live games. And again, year 1, we won the Emmy for Best Studio Show, beating out Inside the NBA, which was pretty cool. And then 60 Minutes. I went to 60 Minutes, which is a very famous news show in America. I had an idea for a show, for a story. I pitched it to them for them to do themselves. They asked me, would you be interested in producing? I've never done anything in news in my life, in my career. And again, that ended up winning that year. First news story I ever did ended up winning Best News Story, Emmy for Best News Story of the Year. So those 3 really stand out because they were kind of like, they were the biggest challenges, because all 3 of those were things that I'd never done before. And I went in and, you know, you have to figure it out. You have to just find a way. You have to just kind of rely on your instincts, rely on your whatever, you know, God-given talent you have. And to not only do those 3 things first time, but to be recognized with an Emmy, those 3 I always feel like are the ones that stand out the most.
Yeah, it sounds really like something. You take things into your hands and they turn into gold.
Yeah, not always, not always, but when they get into my hands, I'm gonna follow my instincts. I'm gonna take chances, and I'm gonna, you know, I'm not gonna worry about being safe. So sometimes it fails, sometimes it works. So it's not always. I wish I could say it was always, but yeah, like I got lucky. I hit the lottery. I found the one thing in the world that I'm probably born to do. I don't know if I did anything else in the world that I would be anywhere near where I am as far as like sort of, you know, profile, because I just think I got very, very lucky. I just found the one thing that I was born to do. I was an athlete growing up. I was always creative growing up. Everything, yeah, and I didn't even search for that. I randomly, like, luckily fell into this. I didn't even go to school for this. I just got lucky.
Well, after all, you have to, as we say here in Croatia, you have to challenge your luck, you know.
Yeah. You were talking about doing games as well. We are all, as NFL commentators and our viewers as NFL fans, always interested in that part, because we get to see your work and comment on it. How much work goes into an average CBS NFL game, and how different is it if it's a standalone playoff game, let's say, like a Super Bowl or a conference championship game?
It's pretty what we call cookie cutter. It's pretty formulaic at this point. We know how many cameras we're allowed. We know how many trucks we can bring. We know what our announcer positions are. So, you know, we're one of several networks that broadcast NFL: CBS, NBC, Fox, ESPN, now Amazon. And we all follow the same rules. So on a regular season game, you know where your camera positions are, you know where everything is. Playoffs, it gets a little bigger. Super Bowl is where the biggest challenge is, because you have a little bit more room to play and you have more time to plan for it. So we have the Super Bowl every 3 years. So you have basically, when you finish the Super Bowl, now you've got 3 years before your next one. So if you want to do anything crazy, that's where you really flex your muscles, creative muscles. But during the regular season and playoffs, it's pretty straightforward, to be honest. It's the stadiums are built for TV. We come in, plug in. The stadiums are already pre-cable. Like, everything is America is pretty good when it comes to, you know, infrastructure for media.
have to ask, at least jokingly, did you get the script for the next season?
Yeah, it's funny. No, there is no script, but those spots are funny, and yeah, there's no. You can't script the helmet catch. You can't script, you can't script some of the things that happen in the NFL. So
Yeah, of course.
it's a funny. It's. I like that the NFL leaned into it and actually did a spot about it, but no, yeah.
Of course. We wanted to ask you regarding the content that is growing inside of a production of a game. One thing has been relatively new to all sports and to NFL, and that's analytics. How to integrate it into a game or into a production. What do you think is the future of that? And do you have a personal opinion regarding analytics?
I mean, I think it's a little niche still, and I think it's for the hardcores. I think the challenge for me as a producer is taking really niche, in-depth analysis that's super esoteric, hard to understand, and translating it into everyday language. So that's on production, that's on us, to find a way to convey all that information. Yeah, I mean, I'm not a sports nerd, so I like sports. I play, like I said, I prefer playing than watching my whole life. Like like I said, I played every sport growing up. I played in college. I played after college, the whole thing. So I like sports. I enjoy watching it, but I enjoy the entertainment aspect of it. So for me, it's not for me, but I understand there's a need for it. I understand gambling and all the different things that go into analytics and why it's important. But yeah, I don't think there's, like I like to say, the toothpaste is out of the tube. Once it's out, you can't get it back in. Yeah. So it's out, and it's here to stay. But now it's a matter of how far it goes. But I think NFL in particular is such a wide audience. There's there's hardcore, obviously there's hardcore fans, but there's so many just like casual NFL fans in America that really don't care about that stuff.
I can try to compare it to football or soccer in Croatia, because it's a part of the culture. It's not just data, it's part of the culture, it's part of everyday life. The same way NFL as football is in Croatia, and we have I would say we have a backlash regarding analytics similar in football or in soccer as maybe you do in the NFL. And it's perfectly understandable because people are much more connected to it on a cultural level. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like in Texas.
Tribal even. Yeah.
It's much more intense here.
Yeah, but
than the NFL is in America.
But there was one other part of coverage. I think Hrvoje, you wanted to mention.
Right now, whether it's CBS, whether it's Fox, everyone wants to have a referee expert or a former official, a former referee who's now doing TV, and it's become an essential part of the program. Is there something that you can see happening in a few years that maybe is not now part of the production, part of the program, but in 7 or 8 years we'll say, how did we have games without this?
Well, I mean, I'm going to pat myself on the back a little bit. There is something that we do that nobody else does, and it was actually my idea. So we have a kicking expert.
Yes.
So
Jay Feely.
Yeah, so Jay Feely was basically my idea. So because I kicked in high school. Oh. So I know the sort of nuances of the kicking game, and then I realized we brought in all these refs to explain in basic terms what's happening with the rules. But then whenever there's a big kick, wind, all that, we have former quarterbacks talking about it, right? So they're not in a meeting. I one time pitched why don't we hire a former kicker just so we're in those situations? And it was oh yeah, we should do that. And that's how Jay Feely. And I don't think anybody else does it still. I think we're the only ones that do it. But yeah, so there's so much specific, I don't know what the next level is. We're not going to bring in somebody. I don't think we're going to bring in somebody that's going to in-game talk about analytics. I think that's on our analysts. But I mean, listen, if I could tell you what people are going to figure out in a few years, I'd figure it out right now. I mean, that's, I wouldn't wait. I wouldn't wait a few years. I would do it right now. So, but we're always looking. Like I said, the whole Jay Feely thing, I take pride in that, because that was something where I thought as a fan watching, it was I'd like to know more than just the winds going left to right, like the footing, all of that, the hold. There's so much in that one play, the snap, the hold, the kick, everything, like a quarterback doesn't know that stuff. So yeah, you never know. I mean, it could be more stuff, but yeah, it's at some point more is less. Like we gotta at some point just gotta yeah exactly.
Talking about more is less, there's one thing that NFL is considering taking out of the game, and now they're testing it, and that's the chain gang. Yeah. And for us, like as commentators, the pageantry, the theater of it is we love it, because the chain gang comes out, and they do their job, and it's always interesting, in a way sometimes funny, but now they are trying to introduce the technology that's going to replace it. Does the chain gang have any production value for you as it is, and do you think that the change will be positive or negative?
I think it'll happen, and no one after 2-3 games will think about it. I think technology now, look at tennis. Yeah. I mean, it's basically tennis. So, John McEnroe used to argue with the refs. How do you argue with computer? So the players can't, talk about the spot of the ball is a different story. That's a whole other next level technology. But in terms of the chain gang, it's cute, it's romantic, but I think it's just a matter of time. I don't know anything. I don't have any inside, information. I know they're talking about it, but I think that's just a matter of time. But the spot of the ball is the interesting one. Did the ball go over the line? Was it out of bounds? Did he, was it over the goal line? When's the knee down? Where was the ball at that moment? That stuff, I think, is inevitable.
Yeah.
They're talking about extending the regular season, making it 2 preseason games plus 18 games in the regular season. Do the TV networks have a say in that? Is there somewhere where you say, okay, you're extending it too much. If you get 2 bye weeks, we won't have enough inventory for a Sunday afternoon. Do those conversations take place?
If they do, I'm not in them. So that's a little bit out of my depth. I produce. So I produce the games they tell me to produce. I don't really get in those conversations. What the league does and what our executives decide on, I'm sure it's a collaborative, effort. I'm sure there's a conversation, but at the end of the day, that's the type of stuff that I don't really get too involved. I don't worry myself over because I don't control it. So I'm sure there are conversations, but I'm not in those conversations.
And one last from me. We're obviously soccer fans here as well as NFL fans. What do you think will happen sooner? A Champions League final in the Americas or a Super Bowl in Europe?
It's a really good question. I don't think either is going to happen in the next 10, 15 years, but it's a good question. I can't see a Super Bowl happening in Europe. I just can't see it happening. There's just no way. Because of that, I would say, and I don't think a Champions League is going to happen in America either, but I could see that happening before a Super Bowl in Europe. I just can't see a Super Bowl happening in Europe. I think there would be absolute uproar in America if that happened.
Yeah, and one last from me, you've been in contact with a lot of people connected to the NFL, players, coaches, and people like that. And we've seen a lot of top 3s, top 5s, and things like that of players who are easy to talk to, who are approachable, who are good to cooperate with. Could you, looking into your past and into your experience, think of several people or one person that just left that impression on you, like this guy, I can work with him 10 days out of 10 days?
Wow. Well, I have worked with a lot of former players, and Phil Simms, the former Giants quarterback, Super Bowl MVP, is a very, very good friend of mine. We've worked together since I started, basically. I was at NBC, then switched. We switched at the same time. He knows my family, I know his family. We're almost neighbors. So Phil Simms is one of the nicest people I've ever met in my life. As far as current players, Jason Kelce. Oh. Yeah, Jason Kelce is a really good dude. Really, really, almost so normal that it just almost is like, wait, I don't understand. But really normal dude, really nice guy. Jason Kelce would be another one, and I'm trying to think. Mahomes is really nice, really cool, really chill. So, we get to spend time with him privately. There's no aura about him. It's almost like, you almost have to remind yourself, geez, this is Patrick Mahomes. But a lot of guys, honestly, I think NFL guys, having worked in now football, European football with Champions League, and NFL football, I think egos are probably bigger here than in the NFL. NFL guys are pretty normal, down to earth overall. Yeah, of course there are exceptions, but yeah, those guys stand out. Kelsey, Mahomes, Jason. I never met Travis, but Jason Kelsey stands out. Patrick Mahomes stands out. A bunch of guys. A bunch of guys. I'd say 95% of the guys that I deal with NFL-wise, former or current, maybe 90, are easy approach. Oh, Julian Edelman, my God. How could I forget Julian Edelman? Nice as Ray Lewis, my God. How could I forget Julian Edelman, Ray Lewis, Phil Simms? Unbelievable. Like the coolest, nicest guys. And then, like I said, current players, off the top of my head, Mahomes and Jason Kelsey.
Yeah, I can personally relate. Our audience knows that we're both Giants fans. And like when Jason Kelsey retired, with everything that I've seen, I haven't met him, of course. Like there's one Philadelphia Eagle that seems like a really, really nice guy.
Really good guy. Really good guy.
On point of fandom, are you a fan of any NFL team?
Of course. I'm a Jets fan, unfortunately. So, ironically, I have to interview Bill Belichick today.
About the other team.
So, I have to sit there and talk to Bill Belichick about how great he is today, and while he beat the crap out of my team, the Jets. So, yeah, no, I'm a Jets, Knicks, Mets, the three teams in New York that are not good. Just so happens I'm a fan of those three. So
yeah.
Thank God for Croatian sports, because that's
of course
brought happiness to me, because New York sports does it. Yeah.
Well, yeah. There's a rumor that Joe Namath sold his soul.
Namath's another one. I've become pretty good friends with Joe Namath. I've done a lot of stuff with him. He's unbelievably nice guy. But sorry, go ahead. Yeah, he sold his soul to win that Super Bowl. They would never win again.
Yeah. Thanks. Hrvoje, anything else from you?
No, thank you for your time, and I'm sure this interview will be very beneficial for our NFL fans and for sports fans in general.
Yeah, no, it's honestly, the last thing I'll say is it's just amazing. You know, I've been coming here literally my whole life. Since I was 1, I've been coming to Croatia. Mogu sad se prebaciti na hrvatskom, mislim, dolazim kad znam za sebe i dugo vremena bi došao i objasnio ljudima čemu se bavim, šta radim, taj sport, i svi mi gledaju ko da to igramo na Marsu. I sad u zadnje, ja moram reći, 5 do 10 godina baš vidim da raste i znam pogotovo po jednu stvar, utakmice kad budu u Europi. Niko me nije gnjavio prije, a sad svaku godinu mi više ljudi gnjavi za karte, za Njemačku i za London, tako da vidim da je da je baš da je postao dosta popularan ovdje i da raste. I to mi je baš drago, osim što moram nabaviti karte za ljude. A inače mi je baš drago da NFL raste ovdje i da je jako popularan.
Odlično, puno vam hvala i na vašem vremenu i na organizaciji Sports Media Festivala. Poštovani gledatelji, mi se vidimo kasnije sa još sadržajem. Belichick, and welcome to Croatia again. I know you've heard it a million times, and I have to say, with your results and everything that you did in football, you gained a lot of Patriots fans in Croatia, and it's the biggest NFL team in Croatia. So congratulations on that. I wanted to ask you one thing. Maybe you won't be able to have a chance to talk about during your panel, and that is in all the titles that you've won. We always talk about rings, but the one thing that you did is defensive innovation, like with introducing Lawrence Taylor with the famous Bills game with the Giants, and the early games, early 2000s with the Patriots, 2018 games versus the Rams. What would you say, what drove that defensive innovation, like being able to be current in defense for 30 years?
Well, first of all, you follow the NFL pretty closely. You have a great recall of some of those games and those players. But really, it's about the players. It's about the players. When you have great players, you're able to do things with them that maybe you can't do with somebody and so it's not just talent, but it's also versatility and communication and being able to have multiple skills so that you can place players in different positions where they can be effective at attacking or neutralizing the offense. And of course, in those big games like the Rams and the Bills game with Taylor in '90 or Denver in '86 with Taylor, things like that. Those games, they're all different because the other offenses are different, but to have great players that you can move to attack and then have those players be productive and tackle well, defend well, cover well, rush the passer well, all the things they need to do. It comes down to having great players.
Thanks.
And I've been very fortunate. I've coached the greatest defensive player in the National Football League, Lawrence Taylor, and the greatest offensive player in the National Football League, Tom Brady. So I've been very fortunate to have not only those players, but others who are very good, those two at the very top.
But before I get a chance to give a chance to colleagues, just one more question. Is there a defensive player like you wished you could have coached and never had a chance to do?
I'm thankful the ones that I've had to coach. I've been very fortunate to coach a lot of great players, and certainly Taylor would go at the top of the list, but many great players of the Patriots as well. Rodney Harrison and McGinnis and Bruschi and Vrabel and Seymour and many great players with the Giants as well. Perry Carson, Pepper Johnson, Jim Burt, Leonard Marshall. So without those great players, it would be hard for a coach to have the success that we had, and so very fortunate to have coached, some of those great ones.
Thank you.
Bill, thank you for all the patrons and so many fun for recently you made a lot of good jokes at a certain road show. Is this something that we could also see in your upcoming Monday night show?
Like having a show on Comedy Central or something like that? Yeah. I don't know, we'll see. Yeah. That was, it was an entertaining night for sure. And McAfee, Pat McAfee is another, he and his crew are pretty entertaining as well. It's pretty funny too. So it was interesting, fun to be on those shows. So maybe it'll come up again. I don't know. We'll see.
So with the technology and everything, like the viewership of the game changing, the rules are changing, a lot of things are changing. So you obviously coach for a long period of decades. So can you just, in a short period, elaborate what things remain the same in methodology of coaching and what stuff does the coach need to adapt to the period?
Well, the thing that I think stays the same are just basic fundamentals, and fundamentals in football, blocking and tackling and throwing and catching, kicking, and just basic fundamentals. I think that's probably why you've seen in some other sports. Pete, you talk about this, soccer for sure, but obviously baseball, basketball, hockey. That a lot of the players that come from Europe are successful in professional leagues in the United States, and they're very, very good fundamentally. They pass well, they rebound well, they skate well, they do the fundamental things at a very, very high level, and I think that's part of what's given them a lot of success. So I think it all starts at the foundation. You've got to be good with your fundamentals, and then you build your skills up from there.
Yeah, I think from a basketball standpoint, international basketball is probably the greatest example of that, where we're seeing in the NBA more and more players. They've been, successful over the years, but I think as the fundamentals erode in America,
yes,
it's a combination of Europeans continuing with the fundamentals and the Americans focusing less and less on the fundamentals. People joke about, I've seen jokes about two, slow, chubby white guys that are, running the league. They don't work out, they don't this, that. It's because their fundamentals are rock solid. So, the NBA players, I think basketball in general, basketball is something that I follow very closely. Played basketball, I think that's the biggest example of it. So when you do have that that solid foundation, fundamental foundation, I think that's something a coach is known for in America. And there's an expression, do your job, that coach made famous. It's simple, 3 words, but when you think about it, that's at the core of all their success. And as a Jets fan, it hurts me to say all this. I'm a lifelong Jets fan.
The Jets killed Carl, right?
Yeah.
So,
Well, but head coach of the Jets twice, Pete. Undefeated, unscored.
15 minutes.
Well, no, I had 3 days on the front end of it.
Sorry,
That's
3
right.
days.
So I had 3 days.
You were coach of the Jets
Twice. So twice head coach of the Jets.
I remember those days. I remember like it was yesterday.
He went out on top.
Yeah.
you should always mention 2010, you know?
Yeah.
Let's go Jets.
Yeah, so this is all pretty funny for me. But
the other thing I wanted to ask, like from also the viewership point of view and some analytical point of view, people say today it's a very quarterback-driven league. You need to have a top quarterback to make it to the Super Bowl, otherwise you don't have any chance. And when you look at the draft, also on many drafts, there are a few exceptions, but quarterbacks go 1, 2, 3 or 1, 2, 4 or 1, 2, 5. And like in the 80s or in the 70s, it wasn't like that, or in the 90s. And there's this point of view that you could have won before, like the Redskins or something like that, without a top quarterback. And now it is impossible. Do you think it's true? Can you win now without a top quarterback?
Well, you can't win without a good team. And that's what you need is a good team. Quarterback's a big part of the team, but quarterback doesn't play offense, quarterback doesn't kick field goals. You have to have other players besides a good quarterback. Good quarterback's a big help, but you have to have a good team. There are good quarterbacks that have played in the National Football League that are playing now that aren't winning championships. So it's more than that. But those are key players and great players like Patrick Mahomes and Brady and Manning and those guys have won a lot of Super Bowls, but there've been other quarterbacks that haven't won too many or haven't won any. And so it takes a good team. And in some of the Super Bowls that we won, like the Seattle Super Bowl or the second Super Bowl against the Rams, where we intercepted a pass on the goal line or held the Rams to 3 points, or even in the first Super Bowl against the Rams, the defense really played a big part in that. Then there were other games that we won where we scored a lot of points, and the offense played a big part. And then there were the games like Carolina and the first Rams game where Vinatieri made big kicks in the Super Bowl, or even in the AFC or in the playoffs in the Snow Bowl against the Raiders. So it's having a good team is the most important thing, and a well-balanced team. You can't win in football in the NFL with just one unit, and that's what makes it a lot different than other sports like soccer and basketball and hockey, where players play offense and defense. They go back and forth. They stay on the field or on the ice, whatever it is. In football, we substitute and we're much more specialized, and so you have to have specialty defensive players, specialty offensive players, and especially players in the kicking game at some point in order to win championships. You might get by for a while with good defense or good on offense, but eventually to win with these good teams, you're going to need a well-balanced team.
How many of the games has changed, do you feel? When you started coaching, you were one of the youngest coaches. Now with all the technology.
I'm one of the oldest.
I did not say that. And also we see a lot of teams now going for the 4th down. And also for Pete, what does it mean for you personally to bring family to Croatia? How many years did you try together?
Just one. Only took one invitation.
Yeah, one invitation.
So
this year.
Yeah, well, of course the game's changed. The athletes have changed. When I started coaching, there really wasn't a player over 270, really maybe 275. And now, there are no linemen in the league, offensive linemen in the league really under 300. Most of them are closer to 3 1/4. So just the development of the players has been a big change. The rules have changed, and that's changed the game some as well. But in the end, as I said, it really comes down to football fundamentals. You have a guy blocking somebody else, and can the blocker block him? Can the defender defeat the block? Can the receiver get open? Can the defender cover him? Can a quarterback, make throws into tight coverage, or can he? And so it still comes down to a lot of one-on-one matchups and good fundamentals. And some of the changes in the game have come from the rules. It's been more advantageous to throw the ball. There are rules that have helped the passing game. And the game's become more of a year-round game. Players training, getting bigger, stronger, faster, and better at the football techniques.
Yeah, just as far as like what it means. I mean, I've been coming here my whole life. I was born in America, raised in America, but I'm Croatian on both sides, mother, father. Been proud to be Croatian, have done everything I can to amplify how beautiful it is in whatever way I can, but the thing I'm most proud of is to have Coach here, who has a much bigger microphone in America than I do. One of the most famous sportsmen in the history of American sport. So for him to be able to say he's Croatian now, for him to talk about his experience in Croatia, carries a lot more weight, and I'm just proud that, that I had a small part in that happening. So, but it's just incredible, just surreal in some ways experience to have Coach here. I'm very, very proud.
And it's been an awesome experience. And Pete, thank you for inviting me and giving me this opportunity. It's been a tremendous experience for me to see the country again, to see the people, and to meet with so many sports people, the team, and other the president, prime minister, other dignitaries here in Croatia. It's been a fantastic experience.
Good fun.
Mr. Belichick, first of all, let me say it's a great thrill for Croatian viewers to see you roaming the sidelines with the little Croatian flag on game days. So thank you for that. But as someone with so much experience and so much Super Bowl success, is there one moment that would stand out as the most cherished for you, looking back on your coaching career? Maybe the Vinatieri field goal against the Rams, or the Butler interception against the Seahawks. Is there something that you look back on and say, oh man, that's the moment? That's
wide
the moment.
right.
Oh, wide right.
Yeah. Do you have children?
I do.
How many? Three. Yeah. Are they all special?
Yes.
Yeah. All the Super Bowls are special too. They're different, but they're all special. It's really hard when you accomplish the ultimate goal as a team, and you win the championship, and you can say you're the best team, and you've earned it, and you've beaten all the other teams to get to that point. That team is a very, very special unit, and nobody can ever take it away from you. And even though it might happen again and again and again, fortunately, which it did, those were all very special too, because they're all different teams, different circumstances, different challenges. They're all very special, so it would be hard for me to single out. I would say that probably the two Ram games, that those were two really, really good teams. They're all good, but those are two really good teams, and I'm not sure we were the better team, but we played better. Right. So that's all that matters. There are times where I feel like we've had the better team and we didn't play better. So, yes. And that's something as a coach that you kind of will always regret. But I'm proud of the way those teams played their best in the biggest moments, and that's why they deserve to win. So they weren't given anything. They won because they deserved to win, and I'm very proud.
Which one is the one you regret the most?
Well, all of them. I mean, 4 Super Bowls, including the '96 Super Bowl, a couple AFC Championship games that could have won. So yeah, you remember the losses more than you remember the wins. To be honest with you, you came close and you just came up short, and those kind of it doesn't quite equal out. It should, but it doesn't.
Now, how is it to manage a team? Like, you obviously won a lot of Super Bowls, you lost a couple of them, and now
3.
Huh?
3.
Yeah.
4 kind of the Green Bay game.
Yeah.
But yeah.
With the special teams, the touchdown. Yeah. So when you come after such a big win or big defeat to a training camp, which circumstances are easier? to motivate the team again after defeat or after defeat?
You start all over. Yeah, you start all over. When you lose the championship game, you're not really close to coming back again. You have to go through another whole season to get that same opportunity to play for a championship. You don't just start there. And when you win, everybody's chasing it. Everybody's after you. You know, you're the standard for everybody else. So each year is its own year. You have to build your team each year, and each year it's different. Your players aren't the same, and the teams you play change. Sometimes the schedule changes, or sometimes even if you play the same team, it's not the same team, and you're not the same team. So each year is different. So each year you start at the bottom, rebuild the base, get a good foundation, and then try to stack a lot of good practices and good days together so that your team can play its best in the most critical times of the season. In December and January for us.
My name is Kalea, representing Radio Slovenia in one part. Really great honor for me to give you two questions for both of you, Peter and Mr. Bill. Do you agree that the best team, when they're pretty much equal in any sport, wins that is more hungry? In terms of success.
Again, it's not who's the most talented, it's who plays the best in that matchup, in that match. And one team might be better than the other, one team might win 9 out of 10, but there's just one. And what team plays better in that one opportunity? And that's why sports are so entertaining, so much fun. You never know how that one's going to go, and that's why we see upsets and great teams don't get upset. Great teams, win when they're supposed to win. So that's part of it probably, but I think certainly if you're not motivated and the other team's more motivated than you are, then that's not a good thing. But there are so many plays, there's so many things. It's really a combination of things.
Yeah, I think the Croatian national team is the best example of that. I think, obviously hunger, I think there is for them, that team in particular, when you're the underdog in everyone's minds and you have to prove yourself. I think there is an ingredient for I can speak to the national team, obviously not to the NFL or anything the coach has done. But, I know seeing those guys, and I think going in against England, there has to be a certain hunger. Going in against Brazil, there has to be a certain hunger. And I think that, obviously they're all skilled, they're great players, but as Coach just said, you look back at all those great Croatia wins, one goal, one little inch here, one play there, defender, doesn't head the ball off the cycle, doesn't head the ball off the goal line against England in overtime. We're not talking about it, Croatia's finalists. So there's always those little moments. So yeah, I think at the end of the day, what Coach said was it's who plays better. The cycle was in that spot for a reason because he followed the game plan. So yeah, I think there's a little bit of hunger. Like I said, I can only speak to myself and what I see with the Croatian team, but I think the Croatian team is a great example of hunger.
So beyond the 41 Emmys and beyond all of the rings, and
wait a minute.
The Lord of the Rings.
Hold on.
I'm sorry.
We're 45 Emmys.
I wasn't gonna say anything.
Yeah,
I wasn't gonna correct you, but everyone counts.
40 something, because I think in a few interviews said.
Recently, I won 4, so now it's 45.
That's 45. What's the legacy beyond that you would like to touch? Maybe in the years that are coming.
Yeah, we'll see. Yeah, I don't know. Let's take it day by day and year by year. But right now, I'm very happy to be here. I appreciate the opportunity to be here, Pete, and to be at this, and look forward to this afternoon. And this trip's been a great trip for me personally, and what I've seen, what I've experienced, and I've enjoyed it very much. And we'll take whatever comes next.
Yeah, for me, the legacy is just, for me, what I've been able to do with my career has afforded me opportunities like this. So, when you have some success, it gives you opportunities to do things. And, for me, as I said, the way I grew up, Croatia was such a big part of my upbringing, and my parents are immigrants. They came with nothing. My father was a laborer. My mother was a cleaning woman. So I saw how hard they worked growing up in America.
starting from nothing. So for me, they learned their hard work from here, and they passed it on to me. So now I feel like I have to give back in some way, and that's why things like this are really important to me. So for legacy, I like to be able to do more and more stuff here, and leave some kind of imprint in the place that means a lot. It means a lot to me. I know you're from Slovenia. I'm talking a lot about Croatia, but
yeah, I would second that. Just what Pete said, I would second that. That's kind of when same thing. My parents immigrated, grandparents immigrated, made a lot of sacrifices, and fortunately I have an opportunity to come back and give back to Croatia and to others who I might be able to help. And so a lot of people helped me along the way and helped my parents and grandparents along the way. And so I just want to be able to give back to that, but especially to Croatia.
I have two Croatian questions for the end of this session. Can you talk a little bit about other Croatians, other players and coaches with Croatian roots that you are connected in the States, in NFL, in American football, and how much does it mean to you when you see Croatian soccer team is so successful, winning the medals at the World Championships?
Yeah, well, the Croatian soccer team is amazing, as are many of the other Croatian athletes, the Sinkovic brothers and so forth. Handball, water polo, and I've spoken to other, coaches and players since I've been here just on this trip about that. But I coach Rob Ninkovic with the Patriots, and he's of Croatian descent, and we shared a lot of great Croatian moments together and food. And of course, Coach Saban, greatest college coach of all time, and Coach Saban and I have had a long friendship and relationship and worked together for 4 years in Cleveland, and Coach Saban and my father coached together at the Naval Academy, and so that's really kind of how I first met Coach Saban. So they have a very strong connection as well, and of course Pete Carroll, his mother was Croatian, so Pete and Coach Saban and I, we all have roots, and we've talked about that. But Rob Ninkovic is the one player that I've coached most recently with Croatian background. And so yeah, I mean, all hardworking, great people, very appreciative and honoring of their Croatian heritage.
Eto, napokon smo imali priliku pitati Bila važna pitanja. Hrvoje, što si rekao Bilu, koliko imaš djece?
3.
Da, to smo čuli. Meni je drago što mi je rekao da se razumijemo u fudbal, sad mogu to doma zapisati. A uglavnom, nakon toga smo imali priliku gledati Lord of the Rings panel, dakle kojeg vi niste imali priliku gledati, pa ćemo malo prenijeti o njemu. Gdje je Bill predstavio svoj put u Hrvatsku, svoje spajanje s Hrvatskom i svoj trenerski posao. Što je na tebe ostavilo najjači dojam?
Pa zapravo cijelo to oduševljenje koje i Pete i Bill dijele vezano za svoje hrvatske korijene baš je bilo primjetno i to je leitmotiv cijelog panela. Tu nije bilo puno stručnih NFL tema za naše NFL fanove, tako da ovo je bilo baš opća mjesta. Bill, Draganić, domovnica, na kraju još i putovnica mu dodijeljena od strane ministra turizma. Naravno da je on govorio o nekim svojim doživljajima i o korijenima svoje obitelji, tako da neke stvari smo znali, neke stvari smo po prvi put čuli, vidjeli smo i sliku Beličeka ispred obiteljske kuće Draganić, što je bilo jako zanimljivo, ali kroz sve te razgovore jedna toplina koja je za Bila pomalo neobična, rekao bih, se osjetila, jer on je poznat kao mrgut, kao namčor koji se teško raspoloži, ali valjda Pete ima tu crtu da izvuče to iz njega i ja imam osjećaj da je ovo za njega bilo nekih nezaboravnih 10 dana.
Da, mislim, on se povezao svojim korijenima, što si već rekao. Inače, ostavio nam je Pete Radović u Hrvatskoj Emi, tako da ako neko bude htio, sigurno će postati informacije gdje se taj Emi točno nalazi. Njegov 45. završit će u Hrvatskoj, dakle ima 45. Ono što bi ja rekao, tako nekakve sitne anegdote koje neću čuti drugdje. Bill je rekao kako ispred svoje kuće ima hrvatsku i američku zastavu. Ali da hrvatske zastave koje uspijeva nabaviti, stalno se potrgaju na vjetru. Ohio, Massachusetts, uvijek je vjetrovito. I onda je jedna velika zastava zauzela cijelu pozornicu koja mu je uručena uz sve ove suvenire.
Da, i navodno su neki brojili ko plješće, ko ne plješće kad se hrvatska zastava razvila. Ne vide se sad u kadru, ali dobro.
Nisu MPT, ali su MT.
Popisi se radi. Ali bilo je tu zaista zgodnih anegdota. Evo čuli smo, ja sam po prvi put čuo anegdotu da je Belichick jednom valjda zakasnio u svojoj karijeri na trening i to nakon utakmice na svjetskom prvenstvu Brazil-Hrvatska jer je gledao do kasno. To mi je bila jedna topla anegdota iz Billovog života, a Pete je sjajno to vodio, s njim zaista jedan razgovor koji teče i koji je tako lagan, mislim da se Belichick sjajno osjećao. I mislim općenito da se Belichick po prvi put, jer rekao je Pete na početku razgovora, ti si već 3 puta bio u Hrvatskoj, ali svaki put Ana. Možda smo vidjeli neku sliku na jahti iz daleka, to je sve. Ovo je prvi put da je Belichick došao povezati se sa Hrvatskom službeno kao sin naše domovine.
Kako si ono rekao u jednom prijenosu?
Hrvatska mati ga rode.
Točno tako. I to je zapravo bila tema Lord of the Ringsa uz neka pitanja vezana uz fudbal koja su zapravo bila rjeđa. Tako da tu nismo ni puno doznali, ali zapravo nismo ni morali. Ono što mi možemo dalje raditi večeras je podružiti se s ovim divnim ljudima koji su nam ovo priuštili, malo pogledati Hrvatsku i Portugal koji je kako moguće. Gledatelji će već znati što se dogodilo, i naravno možemo poručiti gledateljima koji gledaju ovaj naš podcast, like, share, subscribe, i to sve ide u jednoj krilatici: do your job.
Radi svoj posao.